Heat or cold? This is one of the most frequently asked questions in physiotherapy, and applying the wrong modality at the wrong time does not just fail to help, it can actively extend your recovery. Let me give you the evidence-based framework that answers this question definitively for every situation you are likely to encounter. Cold therapy, an ice pack, a reusable cold compress, or a bag of frozen vegetables wrapped in a cloth, is the appropriate choice in the first 48 to 72 hours after any acute injury. When you sprain an ankle, strain a muscle, or injure a joint, the body initiates an acute inflammatory response. Capillary walls become more permeable, blood flow to the area increases, fluid leaks into surrounding tissue, and the characteristic swelling, heat, and pain of acute inflammation develop. This response is both necessary and appropriate in the first phase of injury. It is the mechanism by which the repair cells your body needs to fix the tissue actually reach the damaged site. The problem is excessive inflammation beyond what the repair process requires, which creates additional pain, additional swelling, and additional secondary tissue damage on top of the original injury. Cold modulates this. It slows the inflammatory cascade to a clinically useful level, reduces excess swelling, and provides analgesia by slowing nerve conduction velocity in the local pain receptors. Apply for 15 to 20 minutes at a time, with a minimum gap of 45 minutes between applications to allow normal tissue temperature to recover. Always use a cloth barrier between the ice and your skin. Direct skin contact with ice, even through what feels like mild cold, can cause a cold burn within minutes, which is a common and entirely preventable complication. After approximately 72 hours, the acute inflammatory phase has run its course, and the tissue has entered the proliferative repair phase, where the actual structural rebuilding of damaged tissue is underway. At this point, heat becomes the more therapeutically appropriate modality. Heat increases local circulation, delivering fresh oxygen and the building block nutrients that proliferating repair cells need. It relaxes the protective muscular guarding that develops around an injury site, the involuntary muscle spasm that often produces significant secondary pain well beyond the original injury site. It also improves tissue extensibility, meaning muscles and joints respond more readily to gentle mobilization and progressive loading when heat has been applied beforehand. For chronic conditions not currently in an acute flare, the lower back that stiffens progressively across a long workday, the arthritic joint that aches in cool weather, the upper trapezius tension that builds from hours at a screen, heat is consistently the appropriate choice and can be used as often as needed. Apply heat for 15 to 20 minutes using a heat pack, a warm damp towel, or the steady warmth of a shower. The two specific errors that cause real clinical problems are applying heat to a fresh acute injury and applying cold to a chronic stiff condition. Heat on a fresh ankle sprain in the first 48 hours amplifies the inflammatory response, increases swelling significantly, and measurably prolongs recovery. Cold on a chronically stiff lower back constricts blood vessels, reduces tissue extensibility, and makes the stiffness worse rather than better, the exact opposite of what that condition needs. The rule is simple: cold for new and acute, heat for old and chronic. One clinical note that most people miss: for nerve-related pains such as sciatica, carpal tunnel syndrome, or referred arm pain from the neck, applying either heat or cold to the site where you feel the symptom does not address the nerve irritation at its source. The nerve is being compressed or irritated somewhere upstream, and that is where treatment needs to be directed. These conditions require physiotherapy assessment, not local symptomatic management. A few specific clinical scenarios in Malaysia are worth naming directly. Malaysian weather means most people spend extended time in air-conditioned environments, often cold enough to produce generalized muscular stiffness and joint aching that responds well to heat before activity. Heat applied locally to a musculoskeletal injury site at a distance from the infant is safe. Heat or cold should not be applied to areas that will be in contact with the baby. For back pain specifically during or after pregnancy, a physiotherapy assessment is the most appropriate first step rather than self-managing with heat or cold alone. The full article on this topic with further clinical detail is in the link in the description.